Should you convert your pre-tax retirement account to Roth gradually or all at once? That is the topic of today's video. First, we'll look at the 5 most important things that make a Roth conversion effective. Then we'll go through a case study showing the outcomes of what happens when we convert immediately or gradually over time. If you are close to retirement and considering a Roth conversion strategy, you're not going to want to miss this. Hi, my name is JP Geisbauer. I'm a certified public accountant, a certified financial planner professional, and this channel is dedicated to helping Americans retire smarter and live better. I release videos weekly, so if you enjoyed this content, please hit like and subscribe, and you'll be notified when the videos are released. First, let's discuss how Roth conversions work. Let's say you have a pre-tax balance in a traditional IRA. The pre-tax distinction means that you likely got a tax deduction when you initially funded the account. But by depositing money into the account pre-tax, you will be taxed when the money comes out. And once you hit a certain age, currently 73 or 75, depending upon when you were born, the IRS will force you to begin taking RMDs, required minimum distributions, and pay the related taxes. During a Roth conversion, funds are moved from the pre-tax traditional account to an after-tax Roth account. For income tax purposes, you will recognize the conversion amount as ordinary income in the year the conversion occurs and pay the related tax. However, once the funds are in the Roth IRA, they are allowed to grow tax-free. Additionally, any withdrawals are considered tax-free if the account has been open for 5 years and the account holder is over 59 and a half. And there are no RMDs on Roth accounts for the original account holder of the account, making money in this account essentially tax-free for the rest of the owner's life. Now, this is an admittedly oversimplified explanation, and there are plenty of nuances to all of this, but it helps to provide a foundation for this particular discussion. So what are the scenarios that create excellent opportunities for Roth conversions? Well, here are 5 big ones. Number 1, future versus current tax rates. If you feel like you're going to be in a higher tax rate later on in life, a Roth conversion could make a lot of sense. This is typically the case for people that have large pre-tax retirement account balances. Oftentimes, the RMDs can push them into higher tax rates later on in life. So it's important to have a sense of what your projected taxable income will look like over the remaining years of your life. Number 2, having cash to pay taxes. Converting to Roth is a taxable event. If you don't have sufficient cash outside of the pre-tax account, you will need to increase the conversion amount by the amount of the taxes due on the conversion. This means that the amount that ultimately ends up in the Roth will be lower than the conversion amount, which is less than ideal. Number 3, time horizon for growth. The longer the assets remain in the Roth, the greater the amount of time their assets will be able to grow tax-free. So the longer you don't need the assets, the more effective the Roth conversion will be. Number 4, impact on other stealth taxes. Conversions can affect more than just income taxes. The taxable income generated by Roth conversions can force more of your Social Security income into being taxable, can increase your Medicare premium surcharges. You've probably heard of that dreaded IRMA, push you into higher capital gains tax rates, and potentially phase you out of certain tax credits and deductions. But RMDs can also do that later on in life. So you want to examine your projected lifetime income and strategize accordingly. Number 5, estate and legacy planning goals. As mentioned earlier, Roth IRAs don't have RMDs, so the owner has maximum flexibility and control over when the money is withdrawn. Additionally, heirs inherit Roth IRAs tax-free, although the account must be distributed after 10 years. For high net worth families, converting is a way to essentially prepay taxes at lower tax rates, reducing income not only for the retiree, but for the retiree's heirs as well. So now that we are aware of why people would want to do Roth conversions and the scenarios creating the best Roth conversion opportunities, let's review a case study where we begin comparing the value of doing a Roth conversion all at once or gradually over time. Now, while this case study was inspired by clients' experiences, the fact pattern that I'm describing today is completely fictional. And as with most things related to financial planning, there can be complicating factors. Sometimes seemingly small changes in fact patterns can have dramatic impact on the tax treatment of a particular transaction. So just know I'm painting with some very broad strokes here, and none of this should be considered specific tax advice to your particular situation. This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Okay, so let's go through the fact pattern for today's case study. Background. Husband and wife are both age 62. They recently retired and are living in California. Don't need to tell you, a high tax state. They have excellent health, so their life expectancy is projected to be age 90. They're recently retired after successful careers. They have 2 adult children who are both high earners, and they want to deliver the assets to the children in the most tax-efficient manner possible. Finances. They have a $1.5 million house that is fully paid off. They have $100,000 in cash savings. They have $2 million in a pre-tax IRA, $1 million each. They plan to claim Social Security at age 67, full retirement age. Each are projected to earn about $4,000 per month in Social Security. They'll need $7,000 a month for expenses to maintain the lifestyle that they had prior to retirement. And they're currently invested in a 70-30 portfolio, 70% equities and 30% fixed income. So what's their question? What is the most tax-efficient way to get the assets to the kids, converting pre-tax assets to Roth all at once or gradually over time? With all of that in mind, let's review our case study. Okay, so here we are in our planning software. Now, if you've been with me before, you know I like to start with the personal balance sheet. Now, as was described in the case study fact pattern, we've got a joint bank account with $100,000. We've got 2 pre-tax IRAs, one for the husband, one for the wife. Each one has $1 million in it. Then we have the primary home that is fully paid off, and it's worth $1.5 million, and there is no loan against it, bringing our couple's total net worth to $3.6 million. Here we are in our retirement analysis. On the left-hand side is the gradual Roth conversions. On the right-hand side is the total Roth conversion all in 1 year. As you can see, both have a high probability of success in our Monte Carlo analysis, but we're going to need to drill down a little bit deeper to see which one actually is better. So here we are in our tax strategies tab. And what we're looking at here is the 100% Roth conversion all in year 1. So there's a couple of takeaways from here. As you can see, all of that income is recognized in year 1, the year we do the Roth conversion. But a lot of that income is happening above the 35% tax bracket. So that means that we'll be taxed at a fairly high rate in this year that we do this conversion. However, if you look for the rest of the year, there's essentially no tax. So that can be a very beneficial thing as we get older. Now, you've probably heard of IRMA, the Medicare surcharge. Here is an example of what that is going to look like. So because we're taking all of that income before IRMA even starts, none of this conversion amount will be subjected to IRMA. So that could be a very beneficial aspect of this as well. And now, when we looked at our tax-adjusted ending wealth as a result of this strategy, we can see that 100% of the account balance is going to be tax-free. Now remember, in the questions section of our fact pattern description, the client wanted to convey the assets to the children in the most tax-efficient way possible. So 100% tax-free does look really good. But if you look at the ending portfolio value, you can see the ending portfolio value is $2.6 million. Put a pin in that number because we'll get back to that a little bit later. And finally, we want to look at the total tax that they paid as a result of this Roth converted strategy. And as you can see in the tax payment column, you'll see a large tax payment, about $941,000 in year 1. But as we scroll down through the remaining years, there's literally no taxes due. So they really took care of this situation all at once and have no tax considerations essentially for the rest of their lives, assuming, the tax regime stayed the same. Okay, so now we're going to look at our gradual Roth conversion strategy. Now, what you're looking at here is basically the ordinary income tax bracket the client's going to be in over their lifetime before the Roth conversions, because we want to make sure that the Roth conversions even make sense in this scenario. But as you can see, even without the Roth conversions, they're still well below some of these tax rates. So in order to get a better view of this, I'm going to click off some of these tax rates so we can kind of get down to where we need to be. So here we are. Now, the top line here is the 22% tax bracket. So that kind of frames it out. We've took out the 24, 32, and 35 because we're just not going to hit those in our lifetime in this given scenario. So what we want to do now is we want to see what is the value of the Roth conversions compared to not doing any Roth conversions for this particular client. Now, I've already done the calculation here. So I know that 12% is the sweet spot for Roth conversions in this particular scenario. So by doing the Roth conversions, we can now see that the client is going to have about $344,000 more in tax-adjusted ending assets as opposed to not doing the Roth conversions on the gradual drawdown strategy. So definitely makes sense to do the Roth conversions. And the benefit of the Roth conversion is that we're filling in the values in the low earnings years and basically pushing down our tax liability in the high earning tax years. So if you look at the blue, that was our projected taxable income without the Roth conversions. But as you see, the green is with the Roth conversion. So you see how we just compressed our taxable income down later on in the years by recognizing some of that income earlier. Again, for comparison, the blue is no Roth conversions and the green is with the Roth conversions. So let's look at what this does for that Medicare IRMAA tax bracket, right? Because that's a consideration for everybody. Now, this looks good for this strategy also because even though their pre-tax account balances are high, they're never really getting into the higher IRMAA surcharge rates. So this is also really positive and kind of reinforces that, yeah, maybe gradual might be the way. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, at the end there, it looks like we're getting, punching through to some of those other IRMAA amounts. And the reason why that is the software considers long-term care in the last 2 years of their life. So they're going to have to accelerate some of those distributions in the last couple of years. But for this analysis, you can see up until then, they are pretty much below any additional IRMAA surcharge. So that's fantastic for this analysis. So here we are at the tax-adjusted ending wealth allocation. And as you can see, doing the gradual drawdown and doing the Roth conversions, they're projected to be at 60% tax-free. Now recall in the previous scenario, they were at 100% tax-free. They've also created a taxable bucket of about 16%. Now, why did that happen, right? Because we started with all retirement accounts. 100% of their assets were in pre-tax retirement accounts. But what happened over time is they were drawing down more than they were actually spending. So they were able to reinvest some of the pre-tax distribution amounts into the brokerage account, and then that brokerage account continued to grow also. Now remember, the brokerage account is going to be subjected to something called the step up in basis. And what that means is when the client passes, they will get a step up in basis to the fair market value of the assets. So when their kids inherited it and they sold on the actual first day that they got it, it would be as if the capital gain was wiped out. They could sell it at fair market value on the day their parents died and recognize zero gain. So this brokerage account can be a good tax strategy to use for highly appreciated assets. And the final amount of the tax deferred balance that they weren't able to get rid of is about 23% of the total. So it's not the most tax efficient, but if you look at the ending portfolio value, in this scenario, it's $5.1 million. And that's compared to the 2.6 of the previous scenario. So the value of the assets at the end of life in the gradual scenario are significantly higher. And that is what this final chart will show us, is that the gradual Roth conversions, they're using about 2.9 million, and that's because this is going through the Monte Carlo analysis. But as you can see, the gradual Roth conversion strategy has a significantly higher ending balance of total assets. And even though it's not 100% tax-free, the fact that it is a higher balance and you do have the tax-free and brokerage account bucket makes that a pretty compelling argument as to why the gradual strategy makes a little bit more sense. As you can see, doing the Roth conversions gradually in a tax-efficient manner definitely provides the better option given this particular fact pattern. The kids will have to pay some taxes on the remaining pre-tax retirement accounts, and the total amount of total tax paid over their lifetime is close, but it's really about how the time value of money affected the account balances. Doing the Roth conversion all at once dramatically reduces the assets that are generating returns. So this puts you behind in a big way when it comes to asset growth related to investment returns. Also, we don't know what the future will hold. Once you convert 100% of your IRA to Roth, there are no redos. However, if you do it gradually, you can maximize tax efficiently by staying within the lower tax brackets and recognize the income over time. But converting to Roth can also protect you from any future tax hikes. So if that's important to you, do an analysis and figure out what is the best option for you. If you'd like to discuss your Roth conversion strategy with me, please use the first link in the description below to schedule a time that works for you. If you enjoyed this content, please hit like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.